So hi everyone, I'm Al and I'm one of the community managers for Sanctuary Shattered Sun, and today I'm joined by Mike, who's better known to the community as 92, and we're going to be covering some of the questions that were sent in by the community that they are desperately wanting to have answered by the Sanctuary developers. So good morning, Mike, how are you getting on?
Good evening. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, time zones are a bitch, aren't they?
But I know, right?
It's morning
Welcome
here.
To the internet. Yeah.
Morning here in the UK and evening in Australia. So are you ready to face some questions which have been sent in by your fans?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. So let's start with the first and most obvious question. And this is not how is Sanctuary lit. It's the second most obvious question.
Yeah.
This has been asked by lots and lots of people. When will the game be released?
Ooh, well, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's like, look, if we had all the money right now, we had the whole budget for the game, we'd make a plan with dates on it, and we'd know what we're releasing on what date. We don't have all the money, right? We have enough money to get us for a certain period of time, and in that time we'll get more money, and in that time we'll get Kickstarter and get even more money, but we don't know how much. So we don't know. It's just not realistic to just say, oh yeah, it's this date here. Okay, no, I could say a date. I could tell you the date that I think it is. It's going to be wrong. We lose credibility if we do that. I don't think it's a good idea to do that, but. Look, we're very likely to go to early access in the next 18 months, right? Yeah, it's nearly certain that will happen, right? So it could be before then, but it should be by then. So July 2026, we should be on early access, and you'll be able to play. You'll play multiplayer games. You'll have a great time. You'll have be able to play heaps of stuff, right? And then there'll just be more polish added to it after that. And I don't know how long that period will go for because it all is determined by budgets. And that's kind of like the best answer I can give right now.
Okay, so without being specific about dates, just give me an idea of what the roadmap looks like in terms of key milestones from now until major release.
Yeah, okay. Well, the first one is we're just waiting to get our sample campaign mission fun and ready. We've been working on it for a while. It's not where we want it to be, okay? And like the Sanctuary demo is good, right? There's lots of cool content in there. Survival's fun. The campaign's not, right? So we need to get that better. And then we're going to release the Kickstarter because lots of the people who join the Kickstarter, they want to see a good campaign. They want to see that it's fun, right? That's a really important thing to lots of players. Maybe not to everybody, maybe not to our hardcore fans, but when we launch the Kickstarter, the people who are funding it aren't all the hardcore fans as well. It's like just people off Steam are going to see it. Mm-hmm. So they need the campaign, and some of them are casual gamers. So there's like voice acting. There's a whole heap of stuff that needs to get in there. And we need to meet like the same quality levels we've reached for the rest of our content, like the trailer, all that sort of stuff. So so we're doing the campaign mission, then we'll go to Kickstarter. So that should happen by July is my hope, right? That's my hope. And then the early access would just come a year after that, and then we'll just see what happens. Like there's no real plan after that. It's just to see how it goes and plan the next steps, because we'll see the reception, right? We'll either have a huge reception or not much of a reception. And, that's, you make your plans based on the facts at the time. But, there's different ways we could go, different things we could do. Some of them are pretty exciting. We'll see.
Okay, so July this year for the Kickstarter. This is all penciled in rather than set in stone. July this year for the Kickstarter, and then 12 months later, July 2026 for early access.
Yeah,
I'm not going to hold you to those. July. I'm not going to hold you to those, but that's the plan.
That's the current plan. But all the previous plans all got put in the bin, right? And the reason why they got put in the bin is because we got an extension, right? We had more time. We didn't need to do it. You leave these things as late as possible. So, it's a good thing that the plans got put in the bin. But I know it's frustrating to some of the the users, right? Like we
Hmm.
hear, we're very conscious of it. We're concerned about it. Like we're worried that some of the people who've been tracking the project, like, well, where the hell is it?
Hmm.
And the truth is, I can launch a Kickstarter in 2 weeks if I want to, right? And, it's just filling in a website. We filled in the website, like, it's got heaps of great content in there. It's ready to go, but I just don't want to hit the launch button. It's not a good idea, right? A better idea is to improve the demo, then hit the launch button, and that's what we're going to do. Because when we launch the demo on Steam, over 100,000 people are going to get an email saying, "Hey, go check out this demo," right? And then they're going to say, "Oh, what's this Kickstarter?" So we can't rush these things.
You
It's
want it to be good.
super super important. It's a business plan, right? It's a business decision to
Hmm.
delay, and it's not like because of any problem. It's just we want it to be amazing.
I think there's this misconception that delays are bad, when in fact
Yeah.
delays are good because it means that you have more time to produce more quality work.
Right. But like we've been saying this from like the start, right? We've always told people that, we want to wait if we can. We did we made the mistake of like indulging in some specific dates, like really in the very earliest part of the project, but I doubt anyone remembers that. For years, we've been saying, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. And, we don't really give dates. I've said a few in this, but, they're very qualified. That's the current plan, right? Things will change, but right now it's looking pretty good.
Excellent. Okay, next question. This is a bit of a long one, so pin your ears back. So one of the submitters said, "I'm a casual gamer. I enjoyed playing Supreme Commander Forge Alliance with my brothers on Skirmish. However, the biggest thing that led us to stop playing was the dismal AI, even modded. The AI would simply stop doing anything except claim mass points if you make any significant strike on them. What is the level of performance AI is expected to operate at in Sanctuary? What abilities does it have? And will we be able to modify its settings to an extent beyond mass and energy multipliers?"
Right. It's going to be hard for me to remember the end of the question by the time I finish with the
I'll come
start of
back to
it, so you
that.
might have to help me out. Yeah, but basically, what's the plan for AI? So technically, we've never announced that we are going to have AI, right? We have AI devs on the team. We are working on AI. We have AI. It works, but we haven't promised it because I don't know that we'll have like grade A AI, and I don't want to set the people's expectations that that's definitely happening. But as it turns out, the AI code's going better than our other code anyway, so it's pretty funny. Yeah, look, we'll have AI. You'll have there's a few different types. Like in the campaign, there's a sort of AI that runs according to a script, but then in skirmish, there's like the AI that just runs the whole base and tries to adapt to your tactics, all that sort of stuff. Modders will be able to make their own AIs. They will just write scripts that use all the same tools that the user uses to run the game. So there's a whole bunch of engine capabilities that the user uses to interact with game, issue orders and stuff like that. And we already have in Lua working UI, which is essentially a mod. So if people don't like it, they can change it, and that should be pretty exciting. There are some things that would be cool to innovate in the AI space. I really like the idea of having an AI helper helping you. So this would be like an optional thing, right? But let's say you're just busy, right? You're playing over here. You could just select all this stuff and say, "Hey, AI helper, control these units. Set up a base over here. Like I want a fire base here, or defend this area, or attack that, or whatever," right? Scout stuff. But if you could just delegate jobs to a companion, then that would free you up to concentrate on what's important. And just because you can do 50 things at once, well, like, I mean, now you can do 100 things at once. So I think that's an interesting idea. I think that could be quite cool. I know a lot of like players of these games, they just like to set up their patrol route of planes and stuff and watch people fly into them and stuff. I think it'd really fit in with the casual gamer sort of thing where they can just make plans and say, here's a zone, you attack that, and then they just sit back and build their base. I think that would appeal to a certain type of player. We also have, there's a sort of project where we're looking at machine learning to use AI. And we have someone on our project who is very in the AI space, and he can't really talk about it properly. He has huge plans to wrap some very interesting stuff in into Sanctuary with AI, and that's totally different. That's like generating content, game content, not like pictures or anything, like missions that are built on the fly as you play them. And I think that could be killer.
Absolutely. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like not something that we can talk about too much because it's something over there. I don't know. But it should be pretty cool.
Absolutely. So almost like an infinite amount of or potentially infinite amount of missions, which would be AI generated.
Well, that's where games are going, man. Like if you walk around like the industry trade events and stuff, and they have all these stalls, and everyone's got like their little pod set up so they can tell you how they can supply AI content for the game. They're making AI models, they're doing like AI materials, there's AI everything. But you know, why not? Why should your game be static? Like, you know, you should have a static campaign. I think that's cool, right? Because it has the scripted story. But there could just be some other event. Like, you know, what if there is a region, right, where there's some other battle going on, and every time you go there, it's different with different characters, and they respond to what you did. Like, you know, you blew up the church, so you know, they remember that. So, man, that could be really exciting, and I have no doubt the games will be doing this in, you know, 5 years.
July 2026.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks for that. That's really interesting, and I'm sure people will be excited to hear about those plans. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is a bit shorter. You'll be pleased to know. So, how complex is the weather mechanic in the game?
Well, what we have committed to is just the freeze mechanic. So all there is it's all frozen. The whole map is frozen, or the whole map isn't frozen. We're not doing like, you know, this bit's frozen and that bit's not. And it's kind of all or nothing. That's what's kind of we're definitely going to do. There are some other ideas of things that we could do, but we're just not sure. We have to play test them, and we're nowhere near even looking at this stuff. This is all like, you know, way down the track. But you know, you could heat the planet up, and then all the oceans would evaporate, or it would partially evaporate, and then like there could be submerged pathways underneath the water, and now they're exposed and stuff, so it opens up new fronts. Like, you can do a lot of stuff. I don't know how that stuff will go, but you know, anything that doesn't happen, that could be a killer mod, right? Like or like a DLC. Like, I mean, that could be the big Sanctuary DLC after a year after launch, is like all the weather wars or something like that. And now you have full control over the weather, and there's like 5 different states, and when it goes like really hot, all the trees catch on fire on the whole map or something like that. Like, I mean, there are places you can take this, man. And this is what I love about Sanctuary, is that makes it stand out from the other RTS, right? It's not just a bunch of tanks blowing each other up, which is cool, but it's also set on a fake planet. And, you know, I think we're only just starting to see the ideas that are going to come out of that. Like, I mean, wait till you see like Sanctuary 2, like, you know, in 8 years from now or something. You can push that. You can go further, right? And it's exciting stuff.
It is exciting stuff, yeah. Next question, because I really like the idea of the weather mechanics, especially the because I know we said about freeze or normal, but if you could take it to the next level and start evaporating, I think it would be great. So next question. Can you add some ways to make your commander unique, like flags, paint jobs, or halos? That'd be modding,
right?
Really.
So, Yeah, I think like you're talking about like cosmetic
Hmm.
upgrades and customization and stuff. Like that sounds cool. I'd like to do it. That's a really low priority thing. Let's get the game going. We'll make it fun. We got lots and lots of things to do. So that's at the bottom of the list. But yeah, look, it would be cool. Like I mean, it would be cool to be able to customize your, skin your faction, skin all the buildings, skin your commander, have a portrait of your commander, be able to pick his face, be able to pick the border around him and what his
Hmm.
voice sounds like or whatever. Like, I mean, that's nice stuff. And especially in the multiplayer stuff, because we have this, I don't know, do you know much about the Warfront thing that we were talking about doing?
No.
There's a Warfront's this like game mode where there's like this persistent hundreds of persistent battles and stuff, and like there's all these nodes in the maps, kind of like the Galactic War kind of like thing.
Was this
But
was this War on the Sphere? Was that what it was known as at one
yeah,
point? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that
I'm
that
aware of
was the
that. Yeah.
old name.
Hmm.
Yeah, we Warfront just sounds cooler, but
It
it
does.
is kind of a Warfront because like you have like this zone here is your faction, and that zone there is their faction, and you're like moving the Warfront forward, right? And in that it would be especially cool because your commander has like a personality, and
Hmm.
people would track your commander and they would be interested because like when Commander Locke or whoever it is, and he's like a certain guy and he makes certain decisions and then he dies, like that could be cool, right?
Hmm.
It's more interesting than just your usual stuff because this guy has been playing and kicking butt, right, for 3 months and now he's dead. So yeah, also cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, no immediate plans to do it. That could also be a way of raising revenue or something like that. Like, we have there's certain things that we want to do, like provide expensive service and stuff to host the game, and that costs money, right? So if we hosted really high quality servers for big tournaments and stuff, we'd have to pay for that somehow. And maybe a way we could pay for it is just by selling cosmetic stuff. So, there's no pay to win. We're never doing pay to win. You'll get the game, you'll just buy it, you spend your $50 or whatever, you get the game, and it's yours forever. But maybe you can buy a silly hat and, it helps us pay for the service. I don't know. But no commitments, just saying it's possible.
Hmm. Silly hats. Was that what you're going with?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
But I would be interested in what the community thinks about that. We haven't really talked about that too much. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Penny, for your thoughts, what do you think about some cosmetic in game purchases, right, that do nothing, right? Nothing. It's not like there's like some stealth skin you can get and you're invisible. That's not like anything like that. But just you customize your portrait and things like that. And if you want to spend $1 on that, you can. And if you don't, well, that's fine. You still get the entire game experience, and that helps us make the game better. Um, so what do you think? Is that insane? Don't do it. Vote. Let's go.
I think it would be. I think that's going to be really useful in like the clan space. When you have different clans and fight against each other. If you've got a way that you can identify which clan you belong to, such as flags, badges, or whatever, I think that would be a really interesting thing to do. But you,
Also, like tournament prizes and stuff. Like
mm,
you won the mega tournament, so now you get like a crown or something.
or a silly hat.
But yeah, but when are you going to notice these things? When are you even going to see it? Because like when you're playing the game, you don't notice any of that stuff. You're too busy playing the game. So would there be some like lobby area before you launch the match where everyone can sort of see each other's stuff? Like where the commanders actually like hanging out. Sounds a bit weird. I don't know, but these are the questions. But I am actually really interested in what the public thinks about these ideas because it's slightly controversial. I think it's okay, but I know some people are just like micropayments. What the heck? Get out! I'm
Yeah.
leaving this Discord. So I just let me know, guys. What's going on?
Some people are dead against it, but let them.
Well,
let them
I'm
be.
dead against micropayments that affect gameplay. Right?
Yeah.
I no, absolutely not. But if it's just cosmetic, then well, that's all right.
Okay. Moving on then. Yeah. Another longer question for you, Mike. So, will Sanctuary take inspiration from Bar's implementation of gameplay mechanics to enhance the macro-focused strategy experience, as opposed to the high APM, micro-heavy approach seen in games like StarCraft 2? Have you played Beyond Horizon? You've seen it?
I played it a little bit, but I wouldn't say I really know all the great innovations that they've done. So I know a little bit of things they've done. But we are definitely in the same space as Bar, and Supcom and TA and all of these games, and the focus is definitely on macro and not micro, and we're definitely not going for the StarCraft style gameplay, which I think is pretty much what they were looking for in that question. But I think what's really cool is all the innovations we can do in the UI and in the UI space. I think other games, I'm not talking about Bar, but I'm just talking about RTS games, is the UI could just be better, right? And if you go back and you play all the RTS games, they just feel so janky, right? And Supercom had a lot of stuff where you could like assist one factory with another factory. That was really cool. But in Sanctuary, we take it a step further, where you can select factories that don't exist yet and provide that assist order, right? And what that lets you do is, like, in the first minute of gameplay, you can have all of your factories placed on the map. They're not built, but they're planned, and they all already have their orders for the rest of the game. That's really cool, right? So that's a small example of how we can push it a little bit further. But what that does is it allows you to play the game better, because what normally happens in like these RTS games is, sure, you build the factories, but none of them do any work because you were busy, you were getting raided, and you were distracted, and you just you didn't have time to issue the order. So we've got a bunch of things like that. They're already in the demo. There's things like you can start upgrading buildings that don't exist. We want to put in some stuff where you can give orders to units that don't even exist yet. They're not even built out of the factory, but you can select them and start planning what they do. So let's say you've placed your factory and it's being built, and then you can say to build an engineer and some other stuff. And before the engineer is even started, you can select the engineer and say, you go build something over there. So that would be quite cool, because you could, it just allows you to do more, right? And I think the pro gameplay will actually go up a level, because it's now possible to fill in all the blank spots of time with like useful stuff. So, and there's heaps of other things. Like, I get frustrated when I play RTS games. Like, you get used to it, right? You get used to it. But I remember so many times just being frustrated by UIs of games and saying, like, oh, come on, we need to do it a better way. Just put it in a table, or like, make a button to do this and stuff. And I don't know if I made a UI Party, which is a mod on FA Forever, which is one of the biggest UI mods. For that reason, like, I just got sick of stuff. And that does some cool things, like it shows a summary of your economy, so you can see what you're spending your resources on. Like, it categorizes it, so you can see, oh, I'm spending 90% of my resources on tank production. That's a really useful thing to know, because sometimes you're spending 90% of your resources on something else, and you don't want that. And how do you figure that out? Like, how do you figure that out in a game like this? And I did it by making a little chart. So I think definitely room for improvement. The other thing that's cool in our game is we've got that line draw mechanic, where you can just like get a formation from here to here and distribute your units across, and they sort of like evenly space out, and then you can drag from here to here and they space out there, and then they can space out here and stuff like that. That's really cool. I think a lot of people think that we got that from other RTS games, because I know they have some things like that that are kind of similar but different. That actually came from RimWorld. Do you know RimWorld?
I've not played RimWorld.
Colony management. Oh man. Well, if you want to spend a great 4 months of your life, go play RimWorld. But they do that really well, and I'm like, yeah, Sanctuary needs this. So, and it's just a way of positioning your army, because you need to be able to. It's not just about where to send the army; they should arrive there and face that way, right? And that's important, and that's part of the macro gameplay, right? Is like it's unit positioning. You're not like dodging bullets and stuff like that, but you need to have your army in the right place at the right time, and they all need to be like in the fight, and they need to be positioned the right way. And we can totally give the player the tools to do that, and that is the plan, right? Give the player more UI tools so that they can play better macro strategic battles. And we had dinner with Chris Taylor and Brad Reeb, the creators of Supercom and Forged Alliance, and we told them a whole bunch of these ideas, and showed them a bunch of stuff, and they said, like, man, we're just doing what they did. We're taking the ethos of the whole game and, like, the design pillars and stuff. We're just taking it like a step further. That's what they say, which is like the coolest thing that's ever happened, actually. But we're doing it. Let's go.
Yeah. We'll move on. Next question. Will there be a campaign? And we know that you've already said there will be at least a demo campaign. So will there be a campaign? And if so, will it feature 3 separate campaigns, each revolving around one of the 3 factions, or will it be a single linear campaign?
Yeah, there's been lots of talk about this. I think it's going to end up being 3 separate campaigns, one for each faction. But what would be cool is if they all follow on from each other. So the first campaign happens and you finish it, and then the second campaign begins from that point. So that could be quite cool. So, like, you play the first game and they win or whatever, and then due to some twist or whatever, you're able to sneak in as the second. You're still alive somehow, but you start at the bottom and you have to work your way up, and you're the underdog and you win. So, like, that's kind of what you want in a campaign anyway. Is like you start as the underdog and you win, right? So that's the plan. The production on the campaign itself isn't started, right? So we're just doing like a sample mission that kind of like shows, here's the quality of it. It'll be cool and fun like this, and it'll have like shatter and freeze in it. So it's basically just showing off everything. But the actual story, plot, characters, all that stuff, we don't have bandwidth for that right now. So that'll all come later. But yeah, we will do the campaign and with co-op support.
With co-op support as well. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Next question. What will be the price of the game on release? Have you decided on a price yet? On release and also on early access?
Yeah, I don't know about early access. I think the highest price would be is $50, right? We can't really go higher than that, is what I suspect. I don't know about early access. Maybe it'll be the same, to be honest. It'll just be like, this is our price. If you don't like it, then just wait, There isn't really a plan for that, to be honest, the early access launch price. And I don't know about discounts and stuff either. I guess, like, we're just going to see how things go and how things take us, where it takes us. Yeah.
It's a long way off, isn't it, I suppose? So you don't need to be making these decisions yet.
Well, that's right, but we'll also do it in conjunction with research and stuff, so we don't just, like, shake an 8-ball and say, oh, $50, right? Well, there's proper people that you engage, you talk to, they measure interests, you profile the market, there's ways of doing this, and we've done that to some extent, which is how come I can say that we wouldn't go higher than 50, probably, but some of that stuff needs to be done and finished. That process needs to be completed.
Okay. Next question then, Mike. Regarding the idea of different chassis for commanders, how many do you plan to include for each faction? And additionally, what general specializations will they focus on? Combat focused, construction focused, support orientated?
Yeah, cool question. I don't know. That's a great question. Combat chassis, like commander chassis, I think is actually a really interesting part of our plans. We're not really designing that at this point because we have all the more high priority stuff to do. You're going to hear me say that a lot, right? But instead, we can brainstorm a little. So I think having 3 chassis is the golden number. I think having like 5 or something is too much. I think having 2 is too little. Like 3 is just like the perfect number from my point of view. 3 factions, 3 tech levels. It's just enough that you can process it well, right? Which is kind of the challenge with these games. Is there's heaps of content. You need to process it somehow, and the engine can do 50 chassis, but can you? You can't. And keep in mind that each of those chassis will have multiple upgrades, right? So, you pick that chassis and you can have 7 upgrades to pick from. So, that's 21 upgrades per faction or whatever. But there's a reason why the chassis are like interesting. I think it's not just a normal upgrade system. It's kind of like you have the very serious upgrade of changing chassis, and then you can get the upgrades. And what this does is in other games, there's kind of like an issue where you can just get stomped by a guy with an upgrade, and there wasn't a reasonable way for you to know he had the upgrade. And sure, there's 50 ways of solving that problem. You could just hover over him and you could see what upgrades he has, right? So you can solve it in different ways. But I think this is quite cool. If you have to take the commander back to base and then you have to operate on him, he changes shape physically into this big hulking guy, and then now you can take him out into the battlefield. Now he has access to the really big upgrades, right? It doesn't mean he has the upgrades, it means he can have the upgrades. This is really cool. So intel, right? You saw the commander leave, you saw the commander get operated on, and now when you scout the commander, you see he's in the big shape and you're like, oh crap, he might have the megaton cannon, right? So it's solving that problem, and I just think it's cool. And maybe one of the chassis is weaker than the normal chassis. Maybe you start off in the medium chassis and you can either upgrade or change to the light chassis or the heavy one. Maybe the light chassis just has really fast movement speed, right? It's got tricks, it's cute, it's fancy, right? But it's not a tank. And that could be interesting too. And we're all about just wanting as many different types of diverse play styles as possible, right? It has to be macro, but if there's a way to put in a viable other path besides just being super tanky, then that would be great.
I think it needs to be visual, doesn't it? It's the same issue with veterancy for units. If you see a tier 3 tank rolling towards your base, you need to know what that tank is capable of by looking at it, not by thinking, actually, has it reached level 5 of veterancy and therefore is it far more powerful than what I anticipate? Because I think that in some ways breaks the game in some ways.
Well, it's kind of violating the macro balance, right? That veterancy thing that you were just talking about is a really subtle detail that changes the game. And if you have to, it's just too much, right? I'm not a huge fan of veterancy mechanics, and when I play, I just kind of ignore them, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't think it's worth it, right? So you could say that veterancy is cool. Sure, it's cool, right? But it has a cost, and it's what you're just talking about. You don't know what level it is, and that's important information. So I think it's kind of like chess, right? In chess, everybody knows everything, and it comes down to skill. I think that's the cool way to do it. So I don't mean we get rid of fog of war or anything like that, but I think it should be clear what's going on, right? And there shouldn't be hidden secret stuff and you just die because you didn't know the secret. I think that's not cool, because this is a strategy game, and it should just be about unit position, unit composition. This is fun stuff. Is veterancy fun? Is it really?
Does it add anything, really? It just seems to be, it just overcomplicates things. And I think you're right when you say you ignore veterancy. When I play these kind of games, I don't think, oh my god, that tank's level 5, I need to protect it. It's getting thrown into the meat grinder with everything else. So it seems a bit superfluous. What's the real point?
The the point is, I think for like the high tier units, like experimentals and stuff like that. So he's just killed like 200 units, and then he starts healing at a really fast rate or something like that. And because otherwise you would just send him home, and you would actually destroy your own unit, so you can reclaim it, so you can build another one. But that doesn't sound like the end of the world to me anyway, to be honest, because that is a intelligent, strategic decision. I don't know, man. But yeah, and you were talking about the visuals for the chassis. Yeah, that exactly. Like, I mean, they should be quite different. So, the chosen commander is a robot bipedal walking guy, but when he transforms, maybe he has 4 legs. Maybe now he can walk underwater, right? So they're fundamentally changing him. It's not just like he gets more hit points and a bigger gun. He doesn't. The way his pathfinding works changes. Now he can walk sideways, like he can strafe. Maybe he can hover now, like things like that. Or in the EDA commander's case, because they can hover, they would lose the ability to hover, right? So not everything is a good thing, and this is, I think this is what makes interesting games, actually, is if you have contradictory reasons for doing something, like you want to do this or you want to do that, but they're both good, and there's no like obviously amazing answer, right? It doesn't just get better. If you take that, you lose that. That's cool, rich stuff. That's strategic decisions, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much for that. It's dead interesting. Next question. What tools will be available for modding to create custom units, maps, and campaigns in the game?
Right. Well, probably the modder will be writing a lot of Lua code, right, to make everything work. We already have a map editor, so you'll be able to like make your own maps and upload them, and people will be able to play them. And automatically sync updates to the maps across to the different players, etc., so that you don't have to like go copying files anywhere or anything like that. Campaigns are scripted in text, so like in code, Lua code, and making units. Well, you'll make them in your 3D software project, and you'll export it to our format, and we'll give you scripts to run that export it into the right format so that it can be imported into the game. So that's kind of like the minimum set. There's some other things we could do down the track, with more time, with more polish. But in the super polished version, we could give you like a unit editor where you can like drag around sliders and stuff, and you see like the hit boxes changing shape, and you can actually like preview it live, and it can show how does the unit work in a transport, how does the unit work when it's got a shield on, all that type of stuff. So it would make it really easy for you to like do high quality, really fast production. But that takes a lot of time, and for now, I hope you like editing text files.
Okay. So considering the popularity, this is the last question, you'll be pleased to know, and then you can get on with your evening. Considering the popularity of co-op and comp stomp games, do you have any plans for a new and innovative gameplay modes focused on cooperative gameplay?
That sounds like a really great one for the AI content that we were talking about earlier. I think that would fit in absolutely perfectly, and it could weave your friend's story into it as well. Like, I mean, and imagine if it changed depending on if your friend was there, right? Like, that could be really cool. Like, what I mean is, your friend bombed their hospital last game, right? And now you're talking to them again. And if your friend's there, they hate you. And if your friend's not there, they're okay. They're neutral. Like, interesting stuff, right? And you would actually really play. Like, it's an RPG at that point, actually. An RTS RPG. So I think that would check the innovative checkbox. What's actually planned? Like, we're just going to have campaigns. There'll be co-op. We're going to have versus games, versus AI. We'll have survival game modes. And we will allow modders to add more. So, like, I mean, that will give you a whole bunch of fun stuff to play with a whole bunch of cool content. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. That wraps it up. That was the last question.
Awesome.
So I hope that people have found it useful and interesting. And are you happy for them to continue to submit questions based upon your answers?
Yeah, like, I mean, I think this is fun. It's good. I don't go into the Discord much. I don't have like lots of time to be like typing to people, and that's why we have you, Al. Thank you for all your work, by the way. And the other community managers, of course, and the moderators, and all the random guys out there answering questions. Yeah, so, you know, this is good if we can just like keep the questions coming, the ones that are get the most like lots of people asking the same question, we'll do them. We could do this like once a week or something like that for a little while. And I'll try and come up with my questions too, because there are some things, you know, like I got questions, like, you know, what Kickstarter award do you think is worth $500? Right? Because they have a $500 Kickstarter tier that you can put in. And what do you want? Like, I mean, because, you know, we've got posters and art books and all this sort of stuff, but like, what is a Kickstarter reward that's worth it to you, that is meaningful, that you would actually genuinely value? I guess that's what I'm talking about, because I don't want to like give you a whole bunch of crap that you don't want, right? Like, I can put 20 rewards in there and stuff, and you can end up with the a USB drive with the soundtrack on it, as well as the downloadable files. If you want, we can do it, but I'd rather give the ideal outcome is to have very few rewards, but they're just all awesome. That would be the perfect thing.
Needs to be meaningful, don't they? Needs to be meaningful. You know,
I think so. Like, I don't think people want a whole bunch of junk. You know, like, you don't want a Sanctuary pen, right? You know, people get these, like, they have the enamel pins. Like, some people like that sort of stuff. So it's like, you know, a nice.
Better than this.
Is that
pen.
A Sanctuary pen?
No, this is just a pen. The king of pens.
The king.
I'll take a Sanctuary pen.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that would be an interesting question. So I'll try and come up with my own questions to ask the audience as well. But the first one I've already done. So what do you think about the micro purchase thing?
Well, I'll put that out to them, and or the viewers of the video reply in the comments, and we'll take it from there. Mike, thanks very much. It's been appreciated, and I'll speak to you again maybe next week when we have some more questions to quiz you on.
All right, Al. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.